Totally get that. The other set of protesters that was even weirder to me were these this group of very polite young college ladies who had these pre-printed signs they were holding up that said "Jail Bush," and it was just odd to me. I saw them online. I didn't see them at the event, but it was strange to me that a sentiment so like obvious and almost innocent at this point, because clearly, the dude should have been thrown in jail like from birth in like a jail in Turkey in the 1930s, But that sentiment could also be so completely at odds with the fundamentals of democracy and peaceful transition of power. That's what it means. The outgoing guy doesn't get thrown in jail, doesn't get his head cut off, he just gets a free pass. And, it would have been, emotionally, it would have been very satisfying if Obama sees him to the helicopter, shakes his hand, helicopter takes off, Obama gets sworn in. His very first act is, shoot down that helicopter! And then there's a Marine just, ready, and yeah! But all that means is that President Palin would do the exact same thing in 4 years, and that's ridiculous. What needs to happen, the thing that is the bummer, is what is going to happen, which is that Bush will die in like 30 years in his sleep, dreaming of hee-haw, and it'll just be like an old TV turning off. And that'll be the end of that. But that's the price of having representative democracy. So the deal is, we walked and walked, and we got down to the address on my wife's inauguration ticket. It was a purple inauguration ticket, so we were going to the purple ticket checkpoint. Real quick bit of background on this. In my mind, what I had been expecting was, I had gone on tour in Japan 10 years ago with the band I was in. And on the flight to Japan, I had the bright idea of convincing my bandmates, hey, you give me all of the plane tickets and the train tickets and all your cash and your passports. I'll keep them in a little thing here in this fake leather yuppie planner book I bought at Staples. I'll keep it just under my arm. I'll have the whole thing. It'll all be consolidated and it'll be great. For some reason, they had some problems in their lives or something, and they agreed to this crazy scheme of mine. Next thing you know, it's a week later, and we're at a train station, and lo and behold, there's a sandwich kiosk. So I go up, and I clearly remember putting the planner over here, and so I can have both hands free to get a tasty cheese sandwich, and then taking the sandwich, and then one of my friends going, hey, Sam, the train's leaving, and he, okay, and then running for the train, and then that moment, just the doors closing and looking through the glass and seeing the planner with the plane tickets and the train tickets and the passports and the cash just on the counter of the sandwich place. And then it's a bullet train and it's gone. It's the only time in my life ever I've almost vomited from fear and shame. And so our translator friend Satomi, who was with us, said, you need to calm the fuck down. This is Japan. There is no word in the Japanese language for crime. You are going to get everything back. She makes a couple phone calls, and in fact, everything is fine. The planner was, someone found it. Oh, money, and turned it into lost and found. I took the train back. It cost me like $40. I was all shaky, and I had a schematic map to follow because everything in Japan is written in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. So if I got lost, if I went down even the wrong hallway, boom, that's it. I live in Japan now. I would have to get a part-time job to raise some money to take night classes in Japanese so that I could eventually someday use a payphone to call my friends and say, hey, I'm here. That didn't happen though. I followed the map exactly. I got to the lost and found office. There was a man there wearing white gloves, and he said my name, and he bowed and handed me the planner. Everything had been counted and sorted by denomination, but it was all there. So on January 20th, 2009, that was the level of service that I was expecting. I was expecting a dude at the purple ticket checkpoint with a clipboard, and he would see my wife and say, oh yes, Tara Tabe, you're in seat 34B between Chelsea Clinton and the dude from Coldplay. Here's a mug of hot chocolate. Enjoy the inauguration. Instead, what happened is, we're walking and we find there were a lot of people there. In this throng of people, we find a lone police officer. My wife goes up and says, is this the purple ticket checkpoint? And the police officer goes, ah! And just points, and there's a line going back for a block. And even then, slightly bummed, but still just believing in America, still just mega stoked. So we're walking, down the line, like, oh, whatever, we'll wait in line for a block. I was going to see my wife off, and then I was going to go take off to hang out with the rabble. And we get to the end and the line curves and we step around and literally the line descends into this tunnel. The 3rd Street tunnel runs under the Capitol. It's over a mile long and it just keeps going and going and it has no end. Thousands, tens of thousands of people. I mean, the thing about the cop, that's not literal, I'm painting a word picture. But the line of humanity, that was a real actual thing. It was terrifying. So we go down there and it's one of those situations where you're like, this is real. Pretty much from that wall to that wall, solid people. So as you're walking through this corridor of people, and there could have been 80,000 people in that thing, you start to realize this is really friggin' dangerous. And the first thing that I thought of course, was that zombie movie, the 28 Days Later, you know, but that's not quite it, because then, like, the danger is zombies. It's the absence of people. The zombies will eat you because there are not enough people to shield you. Really the danger, what I realized towards the end of this, it was like 20 minutes of walking past all the people with the purple tickets. The thing that I finally made the connection was there was a show in Los Angeles at the Smell years ago. It was a New Year's Eve show. And it was just boring. The bands were boring, and I was bored and kind of angry, and so bands were taking forever to set up, and it wasn't even 11 o'clock, and finally, this is New Year's Eve, I just start going, 10, 9, 8, and a bunch of people trying to shut up, you know, and I was like, what am I doing? Why do I want to ruin New Year's for all these people? What's my problem? That's all it would take, is one bored, frustrated, angry person in that sea of 20 or 40 or 80,000 people in the 3rd Street tunnel to turn to his friend and be like, dude, you should yell fire. And his friend would go, shut up. And then next to him, the little old lady from Iowa said, there's a fire. And then next to her, the sleep-deprived bricklayer from Seattle, fire! Fire! And then that's it. Everyone's dead. Of course, there's no real happy punchline to the story. Most of those people didn't make it into the thing. There were people there who had flown from other parts of the country on their own dime and just got hosed by the U.S. government. I saw a lot of tears, but they weren't like Jesse Jackson crying on election night tears. They were like the bad kind of tears, because people got screwed. If this had happened at any other time in American history, this would have been a huge deal. It would have been like purple ticket gate, you know, but as it was, the inauguration was such a crazy, insane event that it was like on page like 19 of the style section of most papers around America. Meanwhile, on the front page is Roberts, and he's, you know, screws up the oath. And it's, in a way, it's kind of nice to have been a part of something even marginally so vast.